Hi, this is Councilmember Anna Hokemer, and I want to speak to you for a few minutes about my friend, Leanne Tellam. I met Leanne in 2014 when I was president of the Miami Palmetto Senior High PTSA. For those of you who aren't familiar with that job, it's organizing over 1,000 dues-paying members every year, raising about $250,000 or $300,000, communicating with 2,900 students who live in 5 different municipalities, providing tens of thousands of volunteer hours to the school, and doing it with a smile on your face for no pay. It was a really hard job. I tell people it was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. I met Leanne one of my first days as president when she marched up to me, introduced herself as a new mom at the school, and said, "I have a job I want to do for you." You see, Leanne knew that we just passed a $2 billion bond in Miami-Dade County to rebuild and refurbish all of our schools. And she knew that Palmetto Senior High School was slated to be one of the last major projects. So she wanted to be our PTSA board liaison to the Bond Oversight Committee. She understood that somebody was going to have to be there for years, listening and advocating for our school, so that when the time came to do a project worthy of us and worthy of our teachers and worthy of our kids, the funds were there, the relationships had been made, and that the words had been spoken to the people who could make decisions. Within 5 minutes, I'd shaken Leanne's hand, and she started the job. For the next 3 years, while I was PTA president, Leanne never needed to be reminded. She never needed to be followed up with. She simply did the work she said she was going to do, attended the meetings she said she was going to attend, no matter how late they went at night, and made sure that we were informed and she was informed about how things were progressing. For any of you that have ever worked in a volunteer organization, for any of you who have ever worked in management in any organization, you know how rare that sort of person is. I wasn't friends with Leanne at first. She was one of my star volunteers. I appreciated her. I think she appreciated me. But after a couple of years, I got an invitation to one of Leanne's famous girlfriend's holiday parties. Now, if any of you have been lucky enough to be invited to one, you'll know the cars are parked down the street and around the block. The house is packed with Leanne's friends. And I don't think it was until I went to that first Christmas party that I realized Leanne wasn't just an effective, intelligent volunteer for my community organization serving my kids. She was also doing it for the Junior League and had actually risen to be president of the Junior League. She was doing it for the Village of Palmetto Bay's Education Advisory Committee. She was the chair of it, I think, at one point. She was doing it at church. And all of these people packed into her house were people who knew Leanne not just as a friend, but as an advocate and a worker in different volunteer organizations. Now, I've served on council in Pinecrest for 4 years. So I can say with some experience that the best training in the world for being on a council is having been the president of a large, complicated volunteer organization. And here's why. Because when you're president of a large, complicated volunteer organization, nobody works for you. Nobody works for each other. The only tool you have as a leader is your ability to communicate your vision, to reach consensus about the validity of that vision, and to convince other people to work towards the vision. There is no I. There's only we, because that's the only way to get something done. Well, when you serve on a village council, you have no power as an individual. Nobody works for you. Nobody. The council itself has 3 employees, the village manager, the village attorney, and the clerk. But they don't work for you. They work for the council. The only power anyone has on a council is the ability to communicate their vision, convince other people that their vision is worthwhile, and then get other people to work towards that vision. That's leadership in local politics. That's service in local politics. You can't turn around and say you're fired. You can't turn around and say I'm docking your pay. You can't scream and yell your way to a solution. So when Leanne texted me one day and said, I'm going to run for vice mayor of Palmetto Bay, I texted right back and I said, you want me to endorse you? I will, this instant. You don't even have to ask for it. Because I have spent years watching Leanne serve her community, all sorts of different communities I'm not even a part of, with integrity and with vision. Now, many of you know that Leanne was widowed last month, and there was some speculation by some people that she might decide not to continue in the race for vice mayor. And I think most of us would have shrugged and said, that's how it goes. But I had a conversation with Leanne a couple of weeks after she lost her husband, and I very tenderly asked whether she wanted to continue. And she said one of the wisest things I've ever heard from someone in her position. She just said, yes, I'm going to continue because I know there's going to be an after. There's going to be an after this. I just have to get through it. She's a woman who spent her entire life finding meaning for herself in service to others, in finding consensus, in advocating for children and for families, and for serving her community, however the need may arise. So, if you're listening to this all the way to the end, I hope you can hear and see how much respect I have for Leanne and the good wishes I have for her in her race for vice mayor. And I hope that she'll receive the respect and admiration she deserves from a community she's served for a very long time.